What's up, YouTube? It's Black Vision Network, and we're back again with another video. Just in case you're wondering, tune in to Black Vision Network for all your needs on business, healthcare, education, and counseling. Today, we're kind of going to go down the lane of counseling. We're talking childhood trauma and generational curses.
Yep, so if you're new here, we already said what we're talking about. But today, we're going to tackle the popular subject of generational curses, what ones we feel we deal with, and how we have overcome them and how we're overcoming them right now.
So let's get a little vulnerable here. I'm just going to jump right into it. So some of the curses that I deal with, I feel like everybody really who grew up in a Black household can probably relate to this, but emotional invalidation, being told that your feelings are incorrect or not true or don't matter, basically not having a voice, seen and not heard kind of thing. Obviously, some people deal with it in more extreme cases than others. I think mine was kind of extreme. But another one is, because the generation before you, I had to go through certain struggles. You should have to go through these struggles as well, kind of trial by fire, kind of parenting or coaching or whatever have you. Basically like going through unnecessary emotional, financial, physical trauma just because, generations before you struggled. I would say that, I'm not going to really go into in depth, but I probably have mother and father issues as well, and those manifest themselves in different ways. But yeah, I got a couple I'm dealing with. How about you?
Me, it's kind of like, I do agree, being seen, not heard, but me, I think the way it came out is that I kind of feel like my opinion is not valued, so I either won't share it or I'll just cut you off because you did something that hurt me and I just won't tell you what it was. Mm-hmm. And then what else? I think I got stuck in a lot of what a lot of Black women have. It's just the independency thing and Miss Independent. I'm a grown woman, I can live my own life. And then we were talking about gender roles, and I was I feel like the gender roles when I grew up, it kind of goes into the independent thing. The woman did everything in the household. She paid the bills and everything. And I just feel like they never got a chance to take care of their womanly side. It was never a thing to be cute, have your nails done and your hair done. You never did too much. You never wanted to stand out for being beautiful. You just didn't want to be too ugly. It was never said to me, but that's how I felt. It was never about being proud of what you have. It was just make it presentable, Okay. And then what else? Sex is bad. All I knew about sex was that it was bad. Nothing else surrounding it. What it would be the first time or anything about that. And it was just I was uneducated around the topic.
I feel like I was too. I never got the talk.
Yeah.
It was just assumed that, I knew how to handle it if it came to that.
Yeah.
Or just stayed away from it altogether.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's why a lot of people have teenage pregnancy, because they get to those feelings with the person, and then they're like, "Ooh, well, this seems natural," and then they have a baby, and their life is put on hold. And I think we're blessed to not have done that. But then the last thing I had on my list was that I didn't value my home environment. My home was always chaotic, and my space was always it was not a safe space for me, and so I never put any effort into it. And I realized doing that now, that we have our own space, I have my own space, it's not good because if you don't value or take pride in your home environment, it's kind of a reflection of you. So
I mean, that's where you spend most amount of time next to work or whatever have you, so it's got to be a place of peace. So let's kind of, switch gears, keep it moving. Talk about the goal. We're not here, obviously, to disrespect anybody. The goal of this is healing. But at the same time, at least for me, I know I'm going to stand in my truth, or rather what is the truth. Because, part of the problem is, especially in the Black community, is that these things aren't talked about. they want to push it to the back burner, push it to the side out of embarrassment. And I'm not going to spare the truth or, potentially not help somebody out that may be dealing with the same thing out of somebody's embarrassment for what they did. So let's kind of talk about how we identified, these curses or traumas in ourselves, because I know, like, for myself, I didn't notice any of these things until I was like very, very far into adulthood.
You're not even that far into
Well, I guess compared to where I am now, like I would say, like I came
later
to
than you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I would say like I came to these realizations like less than a year ago.
So you said, how do we identify it?
Yeah.
I think, like, for me, like, the recent, like, ever since college, like the last junior, senior, and up till now, when I realized that my life was really in my hands and it was totally up to me to do everything, that's when I, like, started to go in, like, self-development, like, really trying to, like, pursue my goals. And I realized that in order to pursue my goals, I had to be a better person all around in general. And so once I started doing that, I, like, started to pay attention to, like, my habits and my thought patterns. And it made me realize, like, just like expanding my awareness in general about myself and the world. It made me realize that I had, like, certain patterns that weren't the best for me. So I was like, why is this? Where did this come from? And the more I, like, research psychology and everything surrounding it, I realized that a lot of stuff stems from your childhood and your habits and your, beliefs about yourself kind of stem from how you were raised. And then I started to assess that because, like, even being around my family just, like, brings it back. Because, like, the thing about siblings is, like, y'all are kind of raised in the same household. And so, like, you just take stuff differently.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, you're at different healing stages from that trauma. And
you notice it manifesting in them in different ways.
Exactly. What about you?
Yeah. So I would say, like, one thing that was big for me, like, talking about self-discovery, obviously that's huge. Kind of going a little deeper is exploring my self-talk. So, like, as I started to read, you read these books about, creating a wealth mindset and all that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Asking It Is Given. All of those books, they talk a lot about, your inner voice. What is your inner voice talking about? What are you saying to yourself every day? Because the most conversations you have, believe it or not, is between you and that inner voice within yourself. So you have to, like, explore, like, what is that little voice saying about you? Is it saying that, hey, I can make it through this struggle, or I can do this? Or is it telling you to be closed off, not trust what anybody's saying, and you're not worth XYZ? And so, like, what I did is I just, like, sat there and started listening to what it was saying, and I tried to get to the root of it. It was like, so if it would be like, hey, you should probably not share what you're really feeling to this person because they'll use it against you. Well, I'm like, okay, interesting. Where is that coming from? Like, where does that stem from? And I guess more as I just tried to get to the root of those things that I was hearing, a lot of it was rooted in, hey, I don't want to share this because while I was a kid, I was told that, when I was telling the truth, that it was just disrespectful and that I was talking out of turn, or I should know my place, and it was shut down. So it made me difficult to want to speak up. And a lot of times it's because of my self-talk telling me not to do that.
And, like, that just makes me think that you probably started thinking about, like, that because you wanted to get to a certain place and you realized it wasn't as easy as you thought. And, like, I don't know, you always talk to me about, we need to get to the root of the problem. We don't need to just do the surface level stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, you're really big on that. And I feel like one of the things, like, in the pursuit of your, like, one example would be like, why am I not making $10,000 a month already? And it's just like, what subconscious beliefs do I have about money that stem from my childhood? Like what you said, like, it's hard, like, we were taught to believe that it's hard to get a decent living.
Yes.
You have to work your ass off to live a good life, or a decent life even. Like, we see our parents that have been working 20 years for the same company and just now making six figures. Like, but, like, and then we have to talk about, like, oh, our goals are different. We want to work from home and make six figures. We want to be millionaires. So we can't necessarily take what we learn from them and use it for ourselves. And so you're like, where'd that belief come from? And then you look at your childhood and you're just like, oh yeah, like my parents did that to me. Like, I mean, not really, they didn't do it to you. Like, they can only operate from their level of consciousness or awareness.
For sure.
So like now that I think it's just like we're going far, and it's up to us now to decide where it's
those
going,
things. Yeah.
where the next generation is going.
Yeah, so you kind of brought up an interesting point on like our relationship, and I think another big way that I saw a lot of my trauma was in our relationship, in relationships in general, because like it would be a time where we were having a fight, and we would start having the same fight over and over again. And I'm like a big believer that, I mean, not all the time, but a lot of the times, if you're like constantly bumping into the same thing, it's like a cyclic behavior. Mm-hmm. And so there's like a cycle behind that, or trauma behind that is causing you to keep reacting that way or seeing the situation from that manner. Mm-hmm. Whereas like most times if we bump into something, we're going to adjust course. But because of our trauma, we're like, nope, this is our trauma response. Nope, this is our trauma response. You hurt me, go into the shell. Like, and so I think when we started to talk about like, oh, I feel like I'm reacting this way because I'm projecting my mother onto you, or oh, I'm feeling this way because I'm projecting my dad onto you. And then we're like, whoa, okay, so this explains a lot of the reason why we keep having the same fight over and over again.
Was it the part where I said you always like, we need to get to the root of the problem that made you think of that?
Yeah.
Because he would always say that after a fight. He'd be like, you're just saying that because you want me to stop talking. I really want to know the reason. And I'm just like, you don't get on my face. Like,
yeah,
me,
because
like,
you're going into trauma response mode.
Yeah, it made me think of like the attachment styles. Like, that's how, like, if you do something to make me mad, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to just stop talking to you.
Mm-hmm. And that's a trauma response.
Maybe it's an Aquarius thing.
Oh God, we don't have time to talk astrology today. We're talking some real spill, okay?
But yeah, I am like that. Like, I'm trying to change, but I think it is a lot better. Like, especially if this is like the ultimate practice, like our relationship, like talking about stuff as soon as it pisses me off or as soon as it upsets me.
Mm-hmm.
But like me, I used to be like, well, is it actually upsetting me, or I used to like try to invalidate my feelings before I even given anybody a chance to do it.
I remember that one.
It's a dang shame, but yeah.
But it's, I mean, you have to identify it. Like, you had to learn that. Like, you had to go through that. Like, through our relationship. I feel like that's why relationships are so important. Like, it's like a mirror into yourself a lot of times. Cause
like, and that's one thing, generational curse. Like, I look at my parents' relationship and I'm like, I do not want that at all. I'm just like, you said it, like, I can't help but like project like, this is how it's gonna end, like, and then I'm just like, well, I'm definitely not my parents.
I think you brought up like a really cool point earlier, and you were like I had never thought about this before, but you said that what you didn't receive as a child becomes your love language. And like for me, that's acts of service, and for you it's, affirmation and touch. So kind of talk about how you stumbled upon that.
I don't know. I think I was just watching like a YouTube video or scrolling through the timeline or something. And I was like, I really think that. Because like my mom kind of hugged me, but it was never like a lot. It was like special occasions. I would give her a kiss on the cheek or something. And my dad, it was like... But yeah, so like, that's really how it was. And I feel like my mom was busy a lot, so she couldn't really tell me a lot. But, me, towards like the end, like my mom passed in 2017, but like the older I got, the less of a bitch I was. I was a terrible, like... You
heard it here first.
A teenage daughter. Like, I was a mean girl, like, at home. But it's funny because, like, at school, I was like, a nerdy, like... People used to, like, try to bully me, but I was like, I got 4 brothers, I'll whoop your ass, try me again. But,
So you saved all the sass for home.
Yeah. I'm still kind of that way, I don't know. No. The more you get to know me, the more I'm comfortable being sassy.
Mm,
It's like how it shouldn't be, but that's how it is.
that is true. I have observed that too.
Yeah, the more I get to know you, the more I'm comfortable being a sassy person around you. Like, even, like, at work, like, I'll be, like, super nice at first.
Mhm.
And then the more, like, even the associates, like, the other managers, my boss, I'm starting to be more sassy. And they're like, oh, okay, Jenna. I'm like, yep.
I'm here now.
But, like, I don't know. That was always something about me. And my tone of voice. You always tell me, and I always get on you. My mom used to always say my tone of voice was just so nasty and bad and
Yeah,
bad.
you get that sharp tongue.
Mm-hmm.
A razor sharp. Cut you up real quick.
Yes.
You just like, well, why? We just trying to figure out what restaurant we want to go to. Like, why?
Oh my gosh. It'd be like that though.
Okay, so let's we talked about some ways to identify it. Let's talk about how we're healing from it now. And I think one of the big things is acknowledging it and expressing it to you. Like, I feel like the only way, like, obviously just talking about something helps, but having somebody who can kind of hold you accountable, like, you can say, hey, this is my response. Like, if, like you said, if I'm hurt, I'm going to go into a ball. Telling that to your loved one so they can give you more nurture, like for you to give you more words of affirmation and positive, loving touch to try to get you to come out of that and let you know that it's okay to actually share your true feelings as opposed to, just deflecting and shutting down.
Yeah.
It's like that helps you heal from it. Like, that's the only way you're going to heal from it.
I think that just, like, from what you said, you basically said that, like, sharing with a loved one your feelings, I think it kind of waters down to just communication. Like, that's just something all around that I could be better at. Like, there's so many, like, dimensions to communication. There's, like, the tone. There's, like, vernacular. There's, like, context.
Body language.
Yeah, body language. Like, there's a lot that goes into communication. There's, like, medium. Like, text message versus talking in person or a letter.
Big difference.
Yeah, like, all of that goes into communication. And, like, there's a lot. And, I think it's something that I try to work on because, like, I told you earlier, like, at work, it's kind of like practice for stuff that I can bring to the relationship because it's like communication. Because when he gets on my nerves, I'm just like, I'm gonna tell you immediately. I used to, like, hold it in, but, like, this is what I'm working on. But, like, at work, when people do stuff to get on my nerves, like, I can't just ignore them.
You gotta keep saying them.
Yeah, I actually had to talk to them. Like, it's my job to talk to them. So, like, that stuff, like, learning ways to, I think it comes to emotional intelligence as well, and being able to, realize that you're angry or frustrated, but not taking it out on somebody. And then on top of that, not giving somebody the power to make you angry or frustrated from something that they did.
So let's kind of jump into that then, interacting with other people and how you deal with, like, a lot of people will say that you need to, address the problems with who it's caused, like, for, like, a lot of times, if your parents caused it, like, talking them through and telling them your truth. And I think there are two things that you have to do. Like, obviously, if that's something, like, if you're dealing with somebody of an emotional intelligence where you can say, hey, it really impacted me as a child when you did X, Y, Z. By all means, do that. But a lot of times, unfortunately, is while the reason we're dealing with this trauma in the first place is because there was a lack of emotional intelligence. And so a lot of times you have to set boundaries, that may mean, hey, you can't call me after this hour, or if we get to this point, then I'm not going to be able to continue conversation with you. Like, if you tell me I'm being disrespectful, then I'm not going to be able to continue conversation. Like, sometimes you have to set boundaries, and it may even go as far as no longer interacting that person. Like, that's not something that's bad. Like, you can love somebody from a distance. It's, supported by the Bible that you can say, hey, I forgive you for X, Y, Z, but I no longer have to subject myself to this continuous pain. Like, I can shut that off. And so really you have to spend some time with yourself and acknowledge where the relationship is, and then go out and, seek the healing that you feel is best based on that relationship.
And I don't know, but what you just said just made me think, like, if you're on the other side and you're asking somebody for their forgiveness and they don't give it to you, like, don't hold on to that guilt. Because I know a lot of the times, like, we, as the children, we do come from, like, you know, that role. But, like, if you don't have the opportunity to talk to your parents, or even if you're on the other side, like, if you don't forgive them or whatever, like, don't hold on to that guilt or that shame over anything. And it's just important to forgive yourself, more importantly, for anything.
Yes, that's huge.
Forgive yourself for maybe you feel like you waited so long, you've been holding on to stuff for years, and you feel like you wasted your life. Like, it would be a waste of your life even more to realize that now and still hold on to it. And, like, forgiving yourself is important because it allows you to release.
To give forgiveness.
Yeah, and it allows you to give forgiveness because, like, honestly, that's what we can all use because we're all not perfect.
I'm going to tell you, I've been on a strong journey of forgiveness over the past year. And one of the biggest takeaways, like, for example, I watch Transformation Church. I would do Bible plans centered around forgiveness and how to deal with forgiving somebody who has violated you in a major, major way. And that's the number one thing all of them talk about is, you know, a lot of times you'll be like, okay, I forgive this person. And then couple hours later you're like seething with anger because of the situation, and a lot of time it's because you haven't forgiven yourself. You haven't said, man, because I know, like, with me, I'm a big person where I put myself in that situation, like, I shouldn't have done that, you know, it's my fault that I had to endure that trauma because I did XYZ, or I should have known better than to open myself up to XYZ. And you can't do that. Like, that's so much pain and things that you're just holding on to that moment. Like, I couldn't release the moment of that anger where I was violated, and I opened myself up to that thing until I stopped blaming myself for that thing. And so you really have to forgive yourself, let it go, because that's the only way that you're going to release those things that are affecting you.
Yeah. So, did you have anything else?
I don't.
All right, y'all. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. I hope you got something out of this. Like, share if you share some of our generational curses, or if there's something we didn't mention down below. Theo, you got anything?
Yeah, you can send us a message. Follow us on Black Vision Network, Instagram, YouTube, all that. You can send us a message on social media. Leave a comment below, and we would love to help. If you feel that you are open to advice, counseling, help you try to deal with some of the things you may be dealing with. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, continue to follow and support us. And till next time, peace.